Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in every life when the weight of your own chaos becomes unbearable. You feel cracked, splintered in places nobody can see. And you keep telling yourself, I need to fix this, but I don't know how. That's why you're here. And that's why you must stay here until the end of this speech. Because what you'll hear today is not a promise to make you perfect. It's an invitation to remember that you were never truly broken in the first place. What needs fixing is not your soul, but the illusions you've piled on top of it. Stay. Because if you truly listen, you'll walk away knowing exactly where to begin. Not tomorrow, but now. We grow up convinced that something is wrong with us, that we're missing parts only someone else can supply. So we chase fixes, relationships, status, possessions, pills, advice. We look outside because it's too terrifying to look within. But here's the simple truth. The tools you need to mend yourself have always been hidden under your noise. The first tool is awareness, not the shallow kind that notices flaws, but the deeper seeing that watches the mind without judgment. Sit with your restlessness, your fears, your envy, your regret, like old friends returning for tea. You can't repair what you refuse to grieve. And yet, most will still run to a new savior. A guru, a lover, a book that promises salvation. You keep hoping someone else will glue you back together. But how can they? They don't know the shape of your missing pieces. Only you do. Understand this contradiction inside you, that the parts you hate are the same parts that taught you strength. The wound and the lesson are always neighbors. Stop trying to erase your darkness. Instead, bring it to the table. Listen to what it's been trying to tell you. When the mind grows too loud, remember the ancient medicine, silence. Not forced silence, but the kind that arises when you simply stop arguing with life. In that silence, your real self appears, unmasked, unhurried, and suddenly the cracks don't seem so wide. The daily fix is never glamorous. It's the discipline of small acts, rising early when you'd rather stay in bed, saying no when your weakness wants to say yes, keeping a promise nobody will praise you for. These tiny repairs, they build a structure strong enough to hold the storms. Forgive what was broken, even if you were the one who broke it. The past is a scar, but every scar is proof the wound closed. Let it be closed. Don't rip it open every time your mind wants to replay its favorite tragedies. In the end, learning how to fix yourself is learning how to trust that you are enough to begin again. Over and over. You don't need to be flawless. You only need to be whole enough to stand up and walk on. So stay. Listen again if you must. And when you walk away, do not search for someone to repair you. Look in the mirror. That's the only place you'll ever find the cure. Most people go through life convinced they're fundamentally broken. This idea seeps in slowly, from childhood whispers, careless words from parents, sharp edges of a society that profits from your self-doubt. Advertisements tell you you're not enough until you buy something more. Teachers point out your flaws louder than your gifts. Lovers leave, friends betray, and with every disappointment the mind collects evidence. See? You're damaged. You're unworthy, you're incomplete. And so you wear this invisible label, broken, as if it's a birthmark you can never wash off. But stop for a moment and ask, who told you that you were broken? Who decided you needed fixing? What standard are you measuring yourself against? And who wrote those rules? You see, the notion of being broken is perhaps the deepest illusion you carry. It's not the truth of who you are. It's a story you repeat until it feels like reality. And it's convenient, too, because if you're broken, then it's someone else's job to mend you. Someone must love you perfectly enough, save you dramatically enough, understand you deeply enough. So you wait. You wait for a rescuer who never comes, because no one can rescue you from a story you keep telling yourself. Think of a piece of ancient pottery that cracks with age. Some cultures discard it as worthless, but others, like the Japanese art of kintsugi, fill the cracks with gold, making the piece more valuable, more beautiful, precisely because it's been broken. The cracks aren't shameful. They're proof that the piece survived. That's you. Those cracks in your heart, your mind, your spirit, they are not signs of weakness. They're records of battles you fought and lessons you learned, but you keep trying to cover them up, pretending you're smooth and flawless when you're not meant to be. This illusion of brokenness becomes your cage. You wake up every morning reminding yourself of what's wrong, the anxiety that won't fade, the regret that stings, the emptiness that sometimes swallows you whole. And so you scramble for fixes, quick ones. A new lover to silence your loneliness, a drink to numb your racing mind, another self-help book that promises transformation in 10 easy steps. But these fixes are only bandages on wounds that were never wounds at all, just parts of your story you refuse to accept. Imagine standing by the ocean, waves crashing at your feet. The ocean doesn't apologize for its storms. It doesn't wish it were calmer, more contained. It simply is. Vast, wild, deep, sometimes gentle, sometimes furious. You too are an ocean pretending to be a puddle, terrified of your own depth. You label your storms as flaws instead of seeing them as proof that you're alive. What if, instead of trying to fix yourself, you sat quietly and questioned the voice that insists you're broken? Whose voice is it? Is it truly yours, or does it belong to a scared child who was told they were too loud, too soft, too sensitive, too much, or never enough? Maybe it's not your voice at all. Maybe it's time you returned it to wherever it came from. When you stop believing you're broken, a strange thing happens. You stop needing constant repair. You realize that life was never about reaching some perfect, unscarred state. It's about learning how to live fully with your scars, to let them remind you of what you've survived, not what you lack, to let them guide you, not define you. Sometimes the hardest truth is the simplest. You're not broken. You're unfinished. You're unfolding. You're clay that's still wet, shaped daily by your own hands, your choices, your silences, your awakenings, and no one gets to decide when you're complete. The next time you hear that voice telling you you're damaged, pause. Listen, but don't obey. Look at your life, the laughter, the losses, the days you thought would break you but didn't. Let those be your gold-filled cracks. Let them be the proof that you're not broken pottery waiting to be swept away, but art in progress, priceless precisely because you refuse to stay shattered. The most priceless precisely because you refuse to stay shattered. When you begin to see this, the need to be fixed dissolves. In its place comes a gentle responsibility, not to repair yourself endlessly, but to know yourself deeply. Because the more you know yourself, the more you realize there was never anything missing in the first place, only hidden, buried under the illusion that you're not enough as you are. So, don't rush to fix yourself. Sit with yourself. Listen. Be gentle. In that quiet space, you'll discover you were never truly broken, just waiting for the courage to see your cracks as gold. You cannot fix what you refuse to see. This is the simplest, yet most uncomfortable truth about healing yourself. Most people are desperate to feel whole again, yet they spend their days avoiding the parts of themselves that need the most attention. They keep busy, keep entertained, keep distracted. Anything to keep from sitting still and looking in the mirror that doesn't flatter them. But the mirror is there, quietly waiting for the moment you gather enough courage to look without turning away. Awareness is not about thinking more. It's about seeing clearly. Seeing how you speak to yourself when no one's listening. Seeing how your mind rushes to old memories like a tongue seeking a sore tooth. Seeing how your anger is often just fear in disguise. How your pride is often just pain wearing armor. This kind of seeing isn't comfortable. It's raw, humbling, sometimes unbearable. But it's the doorway. You stand in front of it every day, but most people never step through because the other side holds truths they'd rather keep buried. Ask yourself this: when was the last time you sat in silence long enough to hear your mind's real voice? Not the one that knows how to sound good in front of others, not the one that repeats motivational slogans, but the one that whispers your deepest secrets when the lights are off and your phone is finally silent. That voice is the map to your hidden wounds. That voice knows exactly where you need to look, if only you'd listen. It's easy to think that becoming aware means overthinking, but true awareness is the opposite of overthinking. Is becoming not to think is the key. It's the opposite of overthinking. Overthinking loops in circles. Awareness sees through the loop. Overthinking drowns you in noise. Awareness steps back and watches the noise without drowning. Imagine standing in the middle of a crowded street at rush hour. Cars honk, people shout, engines roar. That's your mind when you're lost in it. Now imagine stepping onto a balcony above that street. Suddenly, the chaos is still there, but you're not inside it anymore. You're watching. That's awareness. Most people mistake distraction for healing. They fill their calendars, scroll endlessly, chase novelty. But distraction is just avoidance in disguise. It delays the real work. The real work begins when you sit down and look your discomfort in the eye. Why do you feel empty when you're alone? Why does someone's opinion crush you so easily? Why do you repeat the same mistakes and then act surprised when they hurt you again? These questions can't be answered in the middle of noise. They demand your quiet presence. They demand you sit with your shadows until they reveal what they are hiding. Awareness does not mean self-punishment. It does not mean beating yourself up for what you find. It means looking without judgment. Looking without judgment. Clean its wounds. Help it heal. This is how you must hold your broken parts with tenderness, not blame. The problem is never that you see too much, it's that you judge too quickly. You see your laziness, your envy, your bitterness, and you panic. You slap labels on yourself. I'm worthless. I'm hopeless. But awareness doesn't label. It simply notices. It says, ah, so this is here too. Let me understand it. It helps to remember, awareness is not a one-time event. It's a daily practice, like washing your face or brushing your teeth. You must return to yourself again and again. Sit in silence when you'd rather run. Feel the tightness in your chest when fear comes. Watch how your shoulders tense when you lie to protect your pride. These small moments of seeing are stitches in the fabric of your healing. They are not dramatic. They will not announce themselves with fireworks. But each moment of clear seeing removes a splinter you've carried for too long. Most importantly, awareness is honest but kind. It doesn't sugarcoat, but it also doesn't condemn. It shows you the dark corners, not to shame you, but to remind you that light still reaches them if you let it. In the end, the real fix begins. Not when you buy a new book or repeat another affirmation. It begins when you sit alone, close your eyes and ask, what is really here? What is asking to be seen? And then you listen, not just once, but over and over, until what was hidden has no choice but to come into the light. That is the true beginning of fixing yourself. The quiet courage to see, without flinching, what you've carried inside you all along. You keep running to others, hoping they'll fix what feels broken inside you. This is the trap almost everyone falls into at some point. The desperate search for a savior, a healer, a lover, a teacher who will come along and mend you back into wholeness. It's understandable. When the pain feels too big to hold alone, it makes sense to reach out for someone else's hands. But what you often forget is that no matter how gentle or wise or loving someone is, they can never truly fix what you keep hidden, even from yourself. Look at how you move through life when you feel hollow. You fill the space with noise. Relationships, distractions, addictions dressed up as hobbies. You chase people who promise to see you when you can't bear to see yourself. You lean on their praise because your own voice feels too harsh. You cling to their presence to quiet the echoes in your head when you're alone. And for a while it works. For a few days or months you feel whole, until that person disappoints you, leaves you, misunderstands you. Then the cracks show again, and you panic, and you run to the next warm body, the next quick answer, the next bright distraction. But the truth is painfully simple. No one can heal you if you keep handing them your broken pieces, like they're puzzle parts, only they know how to fit together. People can love you, they can hold you through the nights you're too tired to hold yourself. They can offer wisdom, share lessons from their own wounds, but the deep surgery, the delicate stitching of your inner fractures, is a task that can only be done from the inside. It's tempting to believe someone else has the secret formula you lack, that if you just read the right book, follow the right teacher, chant the right words, everything inside you will click into place. This is the illusion the world sells you over and over, that healing is an outside job. But the real work is quieter, lonelier, more honest than any packaged solution. It doesn't come in the form of another person's approval. It comes in the hours you spend sitting with your own pain when there's nowhere left to run. When you hand your healing to others, you also hand away your power. You become dependent on their presence, their attention, their understanding. The moment they withdraw, you crumble. When you decide to turn inward instead, you discover something surprising. You've always had what you needed. The healer has been hiding inside the wounds themselves. Every heartbreak has left behind a clue. Every regret holds a lesson folded inside the ache. But you can't uncover these gifts if you keep outsourcing the excavation to someone else. Think about it. No one knows the hidden corners of your mind the way you do. No one feels the weight of your secrets the way you feel them at 3 a.m. when you're lying awake. No one can hear the raw voice beneath your polite words, the voice that trembles with shame, longing, and old memories. Only you stand at the center of your own labyrinth. You can let someone stand at the entrance and call your name, but the walk through the dark tunnels must be yours alone. This is not meant to isolate you. It doesn't mean you can't let others help you. But help is different from rescue. A good friend can remind you you're not alone. A wise teacher can shine a light on a blind spot. A loving partner can soothe you when the world feels harsh. But none of these people can crawl into your mind and change the way you speak to yourself. They can't sit through your memories for you. They can't face the truths you bury. They can't decide for you to stop repeating old patterns that keep hurting you. One day you'll get tired of handing your power away. You'll stop waiting for someone to come along and make sense of your chaos. You'll realize the most loyal companion you've been waiting for is your own willingness to turn inward and sit in the mess. Gently, bravely, day after day. And when that moment comes, you'll find something astonishing. You're not as fragile as you feared. The parts of you that ache to be fixed were never waiting for a hero. They were waiting for you to show up, fully present, fully honest, ready to listen and ready to change. When the world tells you the cure is out there, in someone else's hands, in a relationship, a trend, a promise, pause, breathe, look inward. The truest repair begins not when you find someone to fix you, but when you realize you were always the craftsman of your own restoration. And that is the quiet freedom that no one can ever take from you again. Inside every person lies a tangle of contradictions that they spend their whole life trying to untangle, never realizing that this very mess is what makes them whole. You say you want to fix yourself, to feel clean, complete, unbroken. But what you really mean is that you want to get rid of your contradictions. The parts of you that clash, that don't make sense together, that embarrass you in quiet moments. The truth is, though, that to fix yourself is not to erase these contradictions, but to understand them, accept them, and learn how they shape you into something more real than perfection ever could. Think of your contradictions as two rivers flowing through you at once. One river is your wisdom, the calm voice that knows better, sees farther, forgives more easily. The other is your wound, the place inside you that still aches from old betrayals, failures, moments when you weren't protected or seen. Most people think these two rivers should never meet. They believe that to be wise means you must not hurt anymore, that to be strong means you cannot be fragile, that to forgive means you cannot feel anger. But life doesn't work like that. These currents meet every day inside you. They shape your choices, your moods, your longings. And if you pretend one doesn't exist, you only dam up the flow. You stagnate. There's a reason your contradictions exist. They are not flaws. They are the record of everything you've survived. Maybe you are kind, but you still carry resentment. Maybe you love deeply, yet keep people at a distance when they get too close. Maybe you crave peace, yet you find yourself drawn to drama because it feels familiar, like an old blanket that smells like your childhood home. These contradictions confuse you. They make you doubt yourself, but if you stop running from them and sit with them instead, they start to make sense. You'll begin to see that your wounds carved out space for your wisdom. Your anxiety taught you caution. Your heartbreak taught you compassion. Your regrets taught you depth. If you erased the wounds, you'd erase the lessons too. So the work is not to cut out the parts you hate, but to trace the thread that connects them to the parts you love. They're not enemies. They're neighbors. They talk to each other when you're not listening. Most people live in constant inner conflict because they think they have to choose one side. They want to be only light, no darkness. Only strong, no weakness. Only forgiving, no anger. But real healing happens when you realize you are both. And that's not failure. It's being alive. A forest is not only the sunlight that filters through the trees. It is also the shadows, the damp earth, the hidden decay feeding the roots. You are the same. Your contradictions are the hidden roots feeding your growth. When you push away your contradictions, you push away your humanity. You create a version of yourself that is brittle, performative, hollow. You say the right words, but feel disconnected inside. You wear a smile, but it cracks at the edges. To truly fix yourself, you must first admit that you contain opposites, and that they don't cancel each other out. They complete you. So how do you live with these contradictions instead of fighting them? You learn to listen. When your wound speaks, listen without shame. When your wisdom answers, listen without pride. Let them sit at the same table. Some days your wound will speak louder. It will say you're not enough, that you're unlovable, that the past will repeat itself. Let it speak, but don't obey it blindly. Let your wisdom respond. Yes, you were hurt, but look how far you've come. Yes, you failed, but see how much you've grown. This conversation is the real fix, not a battle, but a dialogue. Not erasing the voice that cries out, but understanding what it's really asking for. Protection, comfort, safety, truth. When you listen, really listen, you'll find that your contradictions soften. They don't vanish, but they lose their power to confuse you. They become familiar voices rather than enemies at the gate. You won't feel flawless, but you'll feel whole. And wholeness is not about being pure or perfect. It's about knowing your shadows and your light, your weakness and your power, your bitterness and your forgiveness, and holding them all in the same heart without needing to pretend. One must destroy the other. Without needing to pretend, one must destroy the other. This is how you fix yourself. By becoming so honest with your contradictions that they can no longer tear you apart from the inside. You stand in the middle of them. A witness, a bridge, a human being, perfectly imperfect, beautifully unfinished. Silence is the medicine most people forget they have. In a world that never stops shouting, you've been taught to believe that answers come from more noise, more talking, more explaining. more asking for advice, more arguments in your own head. The truth is, some wounds can't be talked away, reasoned away, or shouted into submission. Some wounds need the precise, gentle touch that only silence can offer. It's strange, because silence feels so empty at first. People are afraid of it. They sit alone in a quiet room, and within moments they're reaching for their phone, the TV remote, any distraction to keep the silence from creeping too close. But if you sit long enough, you start to realize silence is not empty. It's full of the things you've been running from. When you decide to fix yourself, you might think the fix is complicated. You search for the perfect plan, the perfect teacher, the perfect words to repeat to yourself until the brokenness disappears. But there is no perfect plan. There is only the courage to sit still. In that stillness, all your excuses, your buried memories, your small hidden fears float to the surface. They look bigger in the silence, because you finally see them for what they are. The noise you usually wrap around yourself is like a blanket. It hides the mess. Silence removes the blanket. Suddenly you see the wound clearly, without distortion. That clarity is painful, but it is necessary. Silence works because it has no agenda. It doesn't flatter you or scold you. It doesn't tell you what you want to hear. It simply lays your thoughts bare in front of you. Some days that will make you squirm. You'll hear the way you blame others for what you refuse to change in yourself. You'll see how you cling to old anger because it makes you feel righteous instead of responsible. You'll notice how your mind picks at old scars over and over, because it doesn't know who you'd be without your pain to define you. All of this floats to the surface when you stop talking, stop explaining, stop justifying. It's like sitting beside a lake that slowly clears. The deeper truths appear when the surface stops being stirred up by constant motion. It's easy to confuse silence with isolation, but silence is not loneliness. It's not an empty room meant to punish you. It's a sacred space you create inside yourself. A quiet sanctuary where your truest self can whisper things you're not ready to hear when you're surrounded by noise. This is why people who spend time in real silence, not the sulky, resentful kind, but the curious, open kind, begin to feel more whole. They come out of it more honest, more forgiving, more anchored. Silence is the scalpel that cuts away what does not belong. False beliefs, old grudges, unnecessary drama, peels away the layers you thought you needed to survive, and shows you that you were always enough beneath them. The mind resists this medicine because the mind loves its chatter. It thrives on solving imaginary problems, replaying old conversations, defending itself against invisible threats. But silence doesn't play along. It says, be still, be here, look at yourself as you are, and when you do, you start to see that some of the things you thought needed fixing were just noise in disguise. Not everything that makes you uncomfortable needs to be fought or fixed. Some things just need to be seen, acknowledged, and released in quiet. That is a fix too. The more time you spend with silence, the less frightened you become of your own mind. You begin to see that the storms inside you pass when you stop fueling them with your voice. You don't have to argue with every negative thought. You don't have to respond to every old memory that shows up at 2 a.m. You can watch them float by like clouds, real, but passing. You find out that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. That space between you and your thoughts is the space where healing happens. One day you'll sit in silence and realize that underneath all your questions, your fears, your stories about being broken, there is a quiet part of you that never needed fixing. A part of you that is untouched by the noise, the scars, the past. The more you return to that quiet place, the stronger it becomes. Not because you forced it, but because you finally stopped drowning it out with your constant explanations and complaints. Complaints. If you want to fix yourself, don't just talk about it. Don't just gather more ideas, more words. Sit. Be silent. Let the silence show you what is true. Let it do its slow, invisible work. And trust that the self that rises from that stillness will be softer, clearer, and more whole than any version you could talk yourself into becoming. Fixing yourself is not some grand one-time revelation where you suddenly wake up healed and whole forever. The real fix is far less glamorous than that. It's hidden in the small, ordinary, overlooked moments that stack up day after day. It's not the big promises you make to yourself when you're inspired at 2 a.m. It's the tiny promises you keep at 6 a.m. when no one's watching and you'd rather do anything else but keep them. Discipline is the quiet art of daily repair. Most people underestimate its power because it doesn't feel dramatic enough to match the pain they carry. When you think about healing, you imagine a breakthrough, a powerful insight, a conversation that changes you forever, a single moment of forgiveness that wipes away years of hurt. Those moments can happen, yes, but they fade if they're not anchored in daily action. You can understand your wounds deeply and still live from them if you don't discipline yourself to act differently. Knowledge alone doesn't heal you. Habit does. The real work happens in the boring spaces of your day. It's waking up when you say you will, even if the bed is warm and your mind says 5 more minutes won't hurt. It's choosing to eat what nourishes you instead of what numbs you. It's closing the door to old patterns when the temptation knocks. The text you know you shouldn't answer. The argument you know you shouldn't feed. The comfort you know will cost you more later. Discipline is that quiet, patient guardian that stands between who you used to be and who you're becoming. People think discipline is harsh, rigid, suffocating. But real discipline is actually a kindness. It's you saying to yourself, I believe I'm worth showing up for, even when it's hard. It's not punishment, it's proof that you care enough to do what's necessary, not just what's easy. Imagine a garden. Without daily tending, the weeds choke out what you've planted. Your mind and habits are no different. If you don't weed them daily with small, disciplined acts, your old chaos grows back stronger than before. There's nothing glamorous about daily repair. Nobody claps for you when you choose to stay home and work on yourself instead of escaping into another distraction. No one praises you when you break a small, harmful habit that only you knew you had. These little acts of discipline happen in silence. But they are the stitches that hold you together when life tries to pull you apart. The hardest part is that discipline asks you to sacrifice who you feel like being in the moment for who you truly want to become in the long run. It asks you to be loyal to your future self, the version of you who will wake up tomorrow grateful that you did what you said you would do today. That's not easy, because your wounds will fight back. They'll whisper, why bother? It doesn't matter, you'll fail anyway. And yet, each time you choose discipline over that voice, you prove it wrong. Little by little, you build trust with yourself. And self-trust is the foundation for any real healing. Small daily acts done consistently carry more power than bursts of effort done once and forgotten. You can go to a retreat and feel awakened, but if you come home and neglect the small promises, nothing truly changes. The daily repair is where the old self is slowly dismantled and the new self quietly rises. It's in choosing silence when you want to lash out. It's in speaking truth when lying would be easier. It's in staying when you'd rather run, or leaving when you'd rather cling. Discipline, when practiced like this, stops being about force and starts being about devotion. It's not about punishing yourself for your flaws. It's about tending to your mind and your life like a craftsman tending to his tools. It's care, it's commitment, it's showing up again and again, even when no one sees it but you. And maybe that's the deepest part of this fix. Realizing that you are worth the quiet work, the hidden effort, the unnoticed victories that build a strong, steady life. No one else may see it, but you will feel it. And in the end, the discipline you practice will become a kind of freedom. Because a life built on daily repair needs less and less fixing. You stop waiting for big, dramatic rescues and instead become your own steady keeper. And that is where the deepest healing takes root and grows strong. One small, disciplined choice at a time. Forgiveness is one of the hardest tools you will ever use to fix yourself, because it asks you to stand in the ruins of your own past and decide that you no longer want to carry the debris forward. It asks you to open wounds you've kept stitched tight with blame and resentment, only to clean them out with your own gentle hands. Many people think forgiveness is about letting someone else off the hook. They imagine it means saying, "It's okay that you hurt me." But true forgiveness is not about excusing the past. It's about refusing to let it chain you to who you used to be. It's the suture that closes wounds you can't keep bleeding into your future. Most people live with old stories replaying in the back of their minds like a broken record. He betrayed me. She abandoned me. I failed. I ruined it. These stories become identities. The pain feels safe because it's familiar. You know exactly who you are when you're angry, when you're bitter, when you're small and certain that your scars make you special in your suffering. But pain is not a badge to wear forever. It's meant to teach you, to sharpen you, and then, if you let it, to leave you softer, wiser, more open to life. Forgiveness is the decision to learn the lesson without dragging the teacher around for the rest of your life. It's easy to think forgiveness means weakness, that if you forgive, you lose power. But the truth is, holding a grudge is what keeps you weak. Every grudge is a leash you tie to your past. You can't move freely into the future because you're dragging those heavy chains behind you. Some people carry these chains for decades, so convinced they can't let go. They say, if I forgive, it means they win. But no. Forgiveness means you win. It means your freedom matters more to you than your pride in old wounds. There's another part of forgiveness that people rarely talk about: forgiving yourself. Maybe this is the most important fix of all. Because as long as you hold yourself hostage for your old mistakes, you keep punishing the version of you who didn't know any better. Maybe you stayed too long in a place that starved you. Maybe you said words you wish you could swallow back. Maybe you broke your own heart by betraying your deepest knowing. And every time you remember it, you punish yourself again. Even though the moment is gone, the door is closed, the lesson already carved into you. Self-forgiveness is not pretending it didn't happen. It's not justifying what you did. It's standing eye to eye with your past self and saying, you did what you could with what you knew. Now we know better. Now we do better. It's choosing to stop stabbing the same wound and expecting it to heal. It's mercy, not for who you are today, but for who you were when you didn't have the tools you hold now. The beautiful thing about forgiveness is that it's not dramatic. Sometimes it happens in a single breath, a moment when you realize you're too tired to hate, too ready to move on. Sometimes it happens slowly, layer by layer. You forgive a little more each time you stop telling the same story. You forgive a little more each time you look at the memory and feel less fire in your chest. Forgiveness doesn't mean you invite people back into your life. It doesn't mean you pretend you weren't hurt. It means you don't keep drinking poison hoping it hurts them. You put down the cup. You stand up lighter. You fix yourself by closing these old wounds, not with denial but with clarity. You see the past for what it was, a teacher that was often harsh, sometimes cruel, but no longer needed to dictate your next step. You don't need to drag the corpse of old pain into every new sunrise. You don't need to keep the old door open in case they come back to apologize. They may never come back. They may never say sorry. Your freedom cannot depend on someone else's confession. It depends on your confession that you're ready to be free. Forgiveness is an act of courage. It's saying, I deserve peace more than I deserve to be right. It's saying, I will not give the past one more day than it has already taken. It's choosing to live forward, not backward. It's the moment you step out of the prison you built for yourself and realize the door was never locked. It just needed you to push it open. If you want to fix yourself, forgive. Forgive them. Forgive yourself. Forgive life for being unfair at times. Not because any of it was okay, but because carrying it forever is too heavy for a soul that wants to fly. Fixing yourself is not about reaching some perfect state where you never feel pain again or never make mistakes. That fantasy has trapped countless people in an endless cycle of trying to arrive somewhere, a version of themselves that is polished, untouchable, immune to old patterns or new wounds. But life doesn't work that way. Even if you do all the deep work, sit in your silence, untangle your contradictions, forgive your past, you will still feel hurt sometimes. You will still slip back into old thoughts. You will still catch yourself repeating things you swore you'd outgrown. This isn't failure. This is life, reminding you that the work is not about perfection. It's about movement. It's about wholeness that is strong enough to walk forward, even when your legs still remember how to kneel. You fix yourself not so you can stand flawless before the world, but so you can stand with all your imperfections and still choose to move forward. You become whole enough to stop circling the same pain. You become honest enough to stop running back to places that drain you. You become clear enough to see when an old version of yourself tries to pull you back, and kind enough not to hate yourself when you slip, because you will slip. The difference is now you know how to stand back up. There is something deeply powerful about realizing that the real fix is not a finish line, but a path. A path that bends, breaks, surprises you. You won't walk it in a straight line. Some days you'll stride forward, other days you'll crawl, some days you'll rest on the side of the road. But you will not walk backward forever. That is the proof of your healing. Not that you never feel pain again, but that you no longer let it decide where you live. Walking on means you outgrow people, places, and even old dreams. This part can be painful too. Sometimes the old life tugs at your sleeve, whispering reminders of its false comforts. The old relationship you know was never right for you, the familiar chaos you once called love, the numbing habits that dulled your fear but robbed you of your spirit. When you're tired or lonely or afraid, you'll feel the pull to turn back. You'll tell yourself, maybe it wasn't so bad. Maybe you can fix that old thing instead of building something new. But that's just fear disguised as nostalgia. You don't fix yourself to fit back into the old life. You fix yourself to walk out of it and into something truer. And yet, walking on is not about burning every bridge behind you. It's about knowing which doors to close with gratitude. It's about leaving pieces of yourself behind that no longer belong to the person you're becoming. It's about packing lightly, carrying only what still feels true. Regret is heavy, bitterness is heavy, guilt is heavy. When you choose to walk on, you choose freedom over the weight of things you can't change. Sometimes people think wholeness means you're always strong, always certain, always above the noise. But real wholeness is humbler than that. It's a quiet confidence that you can sit with your discomfort and not lose yourself. That you can be alone and not feel empty. That you can face a storm without pretending you're not afraid. Whole people still hurt. They just don't live inside the wound. They know how to stand up, brush off the dust, and keep moving. When you walk on, you stop needing others to see how fixed you are. You stop needing to prove how far you've come. Your life becomes your proof. Your peace becomes your loudest answer. You don't announce your healing. You live it in the way you speak, the way you stay silent, the way you choose what to hold on to and what to release. And the most beautiful part is that walking on doesn't mean you're alone. The more whole you become, the more your life gently makes room for people who match your new pace. People who don't just admire your light, but respect the shadows that shaped it. People who walk beside you, not behind or ahead, but with you, step by step through the ordinary days, through the inevitable messes, through the quiet miracles of starting over again and again. Fixing yourself is not about never falling. It's about becoming whole enough to rise every time you do, to walk on, to carry your scars like maps, not of where you broke, but of how far you've come. And every step you take away from what you were and toward what you choose to be, that is the fix. That is the freedom. That is the proof you are no longer who you were, but who you are willing to become. When you set out to fix yourself, you imagine a grand final moment when you'll stand whole and unbreakable, finally free from your old wounds and restless mind. But in truth, fixing yourself is not about becoming untouchable or perfect. It's about learning to sit gently with your own contradictions, to see the parts of you that hurt without needing to hide them, to speak softly to the voice inside that once only knew how to scream. You fix yourself not by pretending you're flawless, but by learning to live honestly inside your flaws, to let your cracks be pathways for light instead of reasons for shame. You do this in silence, in awareness, in daily small choices no one else may ever see. You do it when you forgive what tried to break you, when you choose discipline over chaos, when you stand up for yourself in moments when your old self would have stayed silent and small. In the end, there is no final destination, no shining version of you waiting on some distant mountaintop. There is only this path, this walk you take every single day. Some days your steps are steady, other days they falter. Some days you carry old pain like stones in your pocket. Other days you let them fall to the ground and walk on lighter. Every time you choose to stand back up, to return to yourself, to begin again, that is the fix. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not waiting for someone else to come and save you. You are not defined by what you've survived. You are shaped by how you keep moving through it. Keep showing up. Keep choosing truth over comfort, silence over noise, forgiveness over blame, small daily repair over empty promises of quick salvation. You fix yourself by remembering that you were never truly broken, only waiting for the day you'd trust yourself enough to pick up your own pieces and see that they were always gold, waiting to be seen, waiting to be carried forward. And when you do, you don't just heal. You grow, you walk on, and you become the quiet proof that wholeness was never about perfection. It was about coming home to yourself again and again for as long as you live.